Hello, my dear listeners. Welcome back to TaleVerse English. Learn with stories. I'm so happy you're here with me today. In this episode, we'll listen to a gentle, emotional story about family, love, and the moments that stay in our hearts, even when people don't. This story is called The Empty Chair. It is written especially for English learners at level 3, so the sentences are simple, the language is clear, and the story flows slowly, perfect for your listening and speaking practice. So, take a deep breath, find a quiet space, and let's begin our story. Part 1. The Old House. My name is Sarah, and I grew up in a small yellow house on the edge of a sleepy little town. It wasn't a big house or a new one, but it was full of life, full of laughter, warmth, and the smell of my mother's cooking. Now, after many years, I was standing in front of that same house again, but this time it felt different. Quiet, still, empty. It had been 2 years since my mother passed away, and today I came back to clean, to pack her things, and maybe, finally, to say goodbye. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was cool, and it smelled faintly of her favorite lavender soap. The curtains were still the same, white with tiny blue flowers. Her teacup still sat on the shelf. And in the corner of the living room was the chair. The same old wooden chair where she used to sit every evening, reading, knitting, or just humming to herself. She always said, "This chair has seen everything, Sarah. My joys, my tears, and even your first steps." I walked over and touched the armrest. It was warm in my memory, but cold now, like time had moved on, but the chair refused to. I sat down, closed my eyes, and for a moment I could almost hear her voice. Part 2. The Memories Return. When I was little, my mother and I used to sit by the window and watch the rain. She would hold my hand and tell me stories. Stories about her childhood, about my grandparents, about how love always finds its way home. One day, when I was 10, I asked her, "Mom, will you always be here?" She smiled, that gentle, knowing smile, and said, "Maybe not always here, sweetheart, but always with you." I didn't understand what she meant then, but I do now. As I sat there in that empty living room, I could still hear her laugh echoing softly through the walls. It was strange how sound and silence could live together in the same space. I opened one of the old boxes beside the chair. Inside, I found her knitting needles, a half-finished scarf, and an envelope with my name written in her handwriting. My heart skipped a beat. The paper was soft and yellow, folded many times. I opened it carefully, afraid it might fall apart. It said, "My dear Sarah, if you are reading this, it means I have gone. Please don't cry for me too long. Instead, Remember me in the morning light, in the smell of fresh bread, in the song you hum while cleaning the house, because I will be there, always. And one more thing, my love. Forgive your brother. My eyes froze on that last line. Forgive your brother? The words sat heavy in my heart. I wanted to ignore them, but I couldn't. Part 4. The Call. That evening, I sat by the window, in her chair, holding my phone. Daniel's number was still saved. I hadn't dialed it in years. I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over the call button. I whispered, "Mom would want me to." I pressed it. 1 ring. 2 rings. 3. Then his voice, tired, older, but still Daniel's, said, "Hello?" I froze. "Danny," I said softly. He didn't answer right away. Then, "Sarah." Just that word, my name, and suddenly every wall I had built came crashing down. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm at Mom's house." A pause, then a quiet sigh. "I was going to call. I just didn't know what to say." "You could have said goodbye," I whispered. I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry." And just like that, years of silence dissolved into tears. We didn't say much more that night, but when I hung up, something inside me had shifted. Part 5. The Visit. 2 days later, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, Daniel stood there. Older, thinner, eyes full of regret. We didn't speak at first. We just stood there. Then I stepped forward and hugged him, and for the first time in years, he hugged me back. We sat in the kitchen, the same one where Mom used to bake cookies. The air was thick with emotion. He looked around and said, "It hasn't changed." "No," I replied softly, "it hasn't." He smiled a little. "Remember how we used to fight about who got the last cookie?" I laughed quietly. "Yeah, you always won." We both smiled, a fragile smile, but real. Then he said something that caught me off guard. I wanted to come back before she passed away. I just couldn't face it. I was scared. "Of what?" I asked. He looked down. "Of being too late, of feeling like I failed her." Tears filled my eyes. "She didn't want your guilt, Danny. She wanted you." He nodded slowly, eyes wet. Then I handed him the letter. I said, "She left something for both of us." He read it quietly. When he reached the line, "Forgive your brother," he closed his eyes and whispered, "She always knew, didn't she?" "Yes," I said softly, "she always did." Part 6. The Empty Chair. After dinner, we went to the living room. The chair was still there, the one she loved. He touched it gently and said, "She sat here every evening, waiting for me." I nodded. "She never stopped hoping you'd come back." He sat down slowly, tears in his eyes. I wish I had come sooner." "Me too," I whispered, "but maybe this, right now, is soon enough." We sat there in silence, two grown children, two hearts learning how to be whole again. The house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full, full of her love, her forgiveness, and her quiet wisdom that somehow still lived in every wall, every window, every heartbeat of the home she built. Part 7. Letting Go. The next day, we packed the last box. Before leaving, we stood together at the door. I turned to Daniel. "What should we do with the chair?" He smiled softly. "Let's keep it. One of us can take it home." I nodded. "It belongs with us." We carried it outside together, laughing as we tried to fit it into his small car. It didn't fit at first, but we managed. When it was finally inside, Daniel said, "You know, I think she'd be happy." I smiled. "I think she already is." Part 8. The Message. Weeks later, I came home from work and found a small package at my door. Inside was a photo, an old one, of Mom, sitting in that chair, smiling at the camera. On the back, Daniel had written, "The chair's at my place now. Every night, I sit here and talk to her. Somehow, I think she's listening. Thank you for calling." I held the photo to my chest and whispered, "I think she's listening to both of us." Soft piano fades in. And that, my friends, was our story, The Empty Chair, a story about love, forgiveness, and the invisible threads that keep families connected, even across time and distance. I hope this story touched your heart and helped you practice your English in a calm, emotional, and meaningful way. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to TaleVerse English. Learn with stories for more warm human stories that make you feel and learn at the same time. Until next time, take care, stay kind, and keep learning English. Goodbye, my friends. Music